Have you spent years loving, understanding, and showing up for others while quietly abandoning yourself? Welcome to Love Me Unconditionally, your self-love masterclass. I'm Michelle S. Fondin, author of Love Me Unconditionally, a spiritual guide to self-love and inner peace, and its companion workbook. This show is here to help you build the most important relationship of your life, the relationship you have with yourself. In Season 1, we're exploring the 14 traits of unconditional self-love so you can stop chasing love outside of yourself and begin coming home to your own worth, peace, and inner wholeness. Let's begin. Welcome back to Love Me Unconditionally, your self-love masterclass. This is episode 5, and we are doing the 5th trait of unconditional self-love, which is I am honest with myself about what I truly want. Before we do our self-love check-in, let me ask you this. Have you ever lied to yourself about what you truly want? Have you ever downplayed it? Have you put a damper on your deepest, truest desires? I know I have. I did that for most of my life. If that is you, you might want to listen to what I have to say about the 5th trait of unconditional self-love. But before we start, I always like to do a self-love check-in. Now for this self-love check-in this week, I'd like you to place both hands on your heart center. And once you do that, you can even close your eyes. I will guide you through this self-love check-in. The first question I always ask is, how are you feeling right now? How are you feeling? Ask yourself that. How am I feeling? All feelings are valid. No feelings are wrong. It's just doing a check-in with how you're doing right now. If you need to, write it down. The second question for your self-love check-in is, what do you need? Is there anything that you need at this particular moment? If it's something that can be taken care of immediately, pause the video, take care of that need, and then come back to this. And the third question for your self-love check-in is, what do you truly desire? What do you want? What do you desire? Now that's what we're talking about in this 5th trait of unconditional self-love. But let's get to the heart of the matter. That's why I asked you to put both hands on your heart center. What do you truly desire today? What is it that you want? Remember, you need to come first on your list and not last. So if you don't have an answer right now, write down what does come up and let's get started. For this 5th trait of unconditional self-love, this is truly starting to get to the heart of how you treat yourself. Oftentimes, when we look at self-love, we are more referring to self-care, which is really important. We need to care for ourselves, our body, our mind, our emotions, our soul, our intellect. We do need to care for ourselves, and that certainly is a part of unconditional self-love. However, as I mention in most of my videos on self-love, it goes so much deeper. And sometimes the neglect we have toward ourselves is very, very subtle. And it might seem subtle because most people do it. And so if you are surrounded by other people who abandon themselves, which I'm guessing that you do have people that abandon themselves because most people do, it seems normal, right? It seems normal. It seems status quo. It seems like everyone's doing it, so it must not be wrong. And in the end, we end up playing small. When it comes to what you truly want, when it comes to your deepest desires, oftentimes we get the opinions of others in the mix. Now, these could be opinions from direct people in your life, your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, family members. Those people tend to really give their opinions, and even our friends. But now we have opinions that come from all directions. We can have opinions from social media posts. We can have opinions from YouTube videos or other types of videos of people giving recommendations about what it is that we want exactly. And so we do this research. Is this realistic? Can I really achieve this? Is this a doable goal? What are the stats? What are the stats against me? And then we stack the odds against ourselves before we give ourselves what we truly want. And getting honest, getting authentic, checking in with ourselves to see if this is what we want, then knowing that it is possible. Now, I don't know if gaslighting is the right term here, but we do have a tendency to gaslight ourselves on this. No, that's not what you really want. Like, you think you want that. That's just a lofty dream. That's not realistic. That only happens for 1% of the population, or maybe 0.5% of the population. That's like 1 in a million, 1 in a bazillion. That will never happen. You can dream big, sure, but you need to be realistic. We do this to ourselves. Other people do it to us as well. But we also do it to ourselves. Now, let me ask you this before I give my story on this. Have you done this? Have you gaslit yourself? Have you said to yourself, here's what I want, but then in the next sentence to yourself, you say to yourself, well, let's have a backup plan. Let's have a plan B. That's not super realistic. That might not be doable. That's a nice to have, but it might not pay the bills. And so we shrink smaller, 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 and smaller. And here's the issue with that. When you do that to yourself, when there is something that you truly desire, when there's something that you really want, but you're not honest with yourself about wanting it, that desire keeps popping up and you feel worse about yourself each and every day that you ignore that desire. Now, I'm going to give you, I have so many stories about how I've done this throughout the years. I think one of the first stories is that I really wanted to move to California when I was 18, and I wanted to become an actress. And this was something that I had planned on since I was like 6 years old. And because I hit roadblock after roadblock, notably my mother and later my father, but it was more my father because of my mother, I made the decision not to move to California because I didn't know how I was going to do it at 18. And instead, I moved to France. Now, France was a nice place to move to, but it's not what I wanted. I didn't want to move to France. I wanted to move to California. And I decided for college to study communications at first. I changed like 6 or 7 times, but what I really wanted to study was acting. And so because I didn't honor what I truly wanted, because the people in my life were telling me it's not realistic, hardly anyone is successful in acting. What if you go to California and you fail? And so on and so on. And so I let others get into my head, and I didn't have the maturity, the self-esteem, the self-love to be able to push forward. And so I did something totally different. And as a result, for years and years, I was very confused as to what I wanted to do. And one of those reasons was because I had had a plan for years of what I truly desired. And then I got dishonest with myself. I said, okay, well, they're probably right. It's probably not for me. I'm probably not dedicated enough to this craft. I probably don't want it enough, because if I wanted it enough, it would happen. Instead of staying true to my dreams, instead of staying true to my goals and what I truly wanted. So what happened was, for many years, I had a large dissatisfaction of career choices because it's not what I truly desired. And so as a result, I was playing it small. As a result, I wasn't honoring what I truly wanted. Then it gets even better. So I had children when I was really young, and I was studying law. That's a whole other story. That was also based on the opinion of someone else. That wasn't based on my deepest driving desires. So I decided I'm going to continue to study law, but I had a baby. And so then I pivoted my plan, because I was committed to studying law and I had done it for 2 years, but then I had this baby. And then my mother said, you should go into teaching. And I said, I don't want to go into teaching. I have no desire to go into teaching. And she said, I think you would be good at teaching. And so I abandoned my study of law to go into teaching, which only lasted for a few years because it's not what I wanted to do. I could tell you a multitude of other stories of me playing it small, putting a damper on my dreams, what I truly wanted, and not being honest with myself about what I truly desired. Now, this has all changed. I am now ultra focused on my desires, even if they seem impossible, even if they seem difficult. But I am way more aligned with who I am now than I have ever been in my entire life. So that is the result of loving myself more. And the more you love yourself, the more you become aligned and honest with what you truly want, with what you truly desire. Because when you continue to lie to yourself, things tend to not work out. They might work out in the short term, but they certainly will not work out in the long term. You might be able to drag it along for a few years, but after that, you become increasingly dissatisfied, especially if you're living someone else's dream for you. You see, I liked the idea of teaching, and therefore, when I listened to my mother to go into teaching, I was able to teach for a few years, but ultimately, it's not what I wanted. That wasn't my dream, it was her dream. She was, in fact, a teacher. So what is it for you? What have you been telling yourself about your desires that simply is not true? What have you been telling yourself about the people you want to date, about the job you want to have, or the subject that you want to study? What have you been telling yourself that's a complete lie? What have you been telling yourself that isn't complete truth about what you desire based on fear of not making it, based on fear of it being too difficult, based on fear of statistics, or based on fear of time. You know, a lot of us fall into that trap of time. Time is so limited. I'm too old. It's too late. It'll never happen. It's been too long. And so when we fall into these traps, we tend to put harm upon ourselves, not loving ourselves unconditionally, because we're not honest. We're not being truthful with what we really, really want. So this week, I would love for you to get clear on your wants, on your desires, without sugarcoating it, without putting the brakes on it, without looking at a million videos that are going to tell you that it is not possible. I'd like you to stay focused, be true, be aligned, and be authentic and honest with yourself about what you truly want. I want to remind you that September 17th is the start date for my 6-week live over Zoom self-love mastery course. It's 2.5 hours per week with me live over Zoom. You can click on the link that is in the description box to find out more. We'll be doing a free Zoom call on September 3rd to learn more about it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next masterclass. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Love Me Unconditionally, your self-love masterclass. Before you go, take a moment to reflect. How does this trait show up in my life right now? Where am I already practicing it? And where am I being invited to love myself more deeply? If this teaching resonated with you, you can explore the full self-love journey in my book, Love Me Unconditionally, a spiritual guide to self-love and inner peace, and the companion workbook. You can find them at lovemeunconditionally.com. And if you'd like to continue this 14-week journey with me, subscribe, click the bell, and join me for the next trait of unconditional self-love. Much love to you, and I'll see you in the next video.